All right, welcome back, everybody. I have to say, there's just been such a buzz out there in the coffee. It's an absolute pleasure to see, such vibrant networking and after such a great start to the conference this morning. So, without further ado, I shall introduce the next session. What we hope to get out of this is just laying the kind of groundworks of knowledge in terms of the MSCA implementation. So what are the key aspects around the practicalities, the novelties, and those all-important key aspects around the eligibility and global mobility of the scheme. We're also going to hear from EURAXESS, which is a really important platform that helps deliver the scheme and support the researchers. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Diana Shugay. Diana is a policy officer at the DG Education, Youth, Sport and Culture, and she holds master's degrees in European integration and in legal and economic translation. So thank you very much, Diana. The pointer is yours.
So, hello, can you hear me well? Yes. Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. Thanks. We have had the occasion to hear this morning, during the first session, about the opportunities offered by the MSCA for both researchers and organizations. After these inspiring presentations, you are probably wondering, how do we turn these opportunities into reality, right? So this is why I'm here today, to try to help you to reply to this question in the most practical way by sharing tips to how to prepare the applications, as well as resources and key guidance that would help you during this process. So let's move forward. But before diving into the details, of course, it's essential to get familiar with our call calendar. Let's focus on the opportunities available this year. We have several calls open currently. This is the case of postdoctoral fellowships, doctoral networks, and co-found. There is another call, which will open soon in September with the application deadline set for February, which is the case of staff exchanges. It is really important that you mark these dates and plan accordingly, as timing is essential for a successful application. So, let's start maybe with this in mind, with the 6 essential steps that I believe that will help you on your path to prepare your application to the MSCA. So, let's move forward. The first step, of course, get familiar with how the funding works. This is one of the most important steps, I would say. And here we have 2 elements. One is that we need to, of course, get to know the different MSCA funding streams, as, of course, each action targets different objectives, and learn which one is the most suitable for you. And the other one is that we need to really learn about the key components of the MSCA funding. So regarding the first one that I just mentioned, of course, the MSCA, each action has different targets, different objectives. We mentioned this already before. Doctoral networks support doctoral programs to train doctoral candidates in academic and non-academic organizations. Postdoctoral fellowships fund postdoctoral researchers and support their career perspectives. Staff exchanges fund short-term international and intersectoral exchanges of staff involved in research and innovation activities of participation, organization, etc. These are just some examples that I am giving to you, because you will have the opportunity to learn about these different streams and get familiar with them in the next session. We have, as mentioned already, our colleagues from the European Research Executive Agency implementing the MSCA on behalf of the European Commission, and they will guide you today through the specificities of each action. But in the meantime, it's important to know which are like the most important guidance documents that can help you with getting familiar with the different streams. Most of them, you will find them in the Funding and Tenders Opportunity portal. I will get back to many of them during my presentation, But to mention some of them, you have, of course, the work program and its annexes, where you will find the specific conditions of the different calls, like eligibility conditions, award criteria. Of course, the guide for applicants with overview of rules, financial aspects, etc. And many more that, again, I will get back to them during my presentation, and of course, our colleagues from the executive agency as well. Also, as previously mentioned, the role of the MSCA NCPs, it's very crucial here as well to get you more familiar with the different streams. They provide information about the program and help applicants develop the project. So you will also get to know more about the UK MSCA in the afternoon session. Another important resource, we can say, is the Research Inquiry Service, which is the main contact point for future and current fellows, universities, research organizations, public institutions, and businesses to answer all questions linked to participation in the MSCA, but also linked to the European Union research framework programs in general. If you have any questions about the MSCA, you can submit directly these questions to the Research Inquiry Service. The second element that I mentioned is this one, the key components of MSCA funding. To begin with, MSCA grants are based on fixed unit contributions, which are paid to the beneficiary for the implementation of the action. These fixed amounts must be multiplied by the number of months that recruited researchers or seconded staff spent on the research and training activities, the so-called person months, and 1 unit is 1 implemented person month. So these MSCA unit contributions are divided into 2 categories, as you can see. Contributions for the benefit of the recruited researchers or seconded staff, also known as researcher staff unit contributions, and contributions for the benefit of the organization, the institutional unit contributions. Regarding the last ones, the institutional unit contributions, in the case of doctoral networks, postdoctoral fellowships, and staff exchanges, this includes, on the one hand, the research, networking, and training contributions, which are intended to cover costs for participations in conference trips related to work on the action, also training or language courses, seminars, lab material, books, publication costs, etc. On the other hand, we have the management and indirect contributions, which are intended to cover costs related to the management of the action. So, for example, personnel costs for project management or coordination. Regarding the researchers' unit contributions, as you can see there, in the case of doctoral networks and postdoctoral fellowships, we have the living allowance, which is multiplied by a country-specific correction coefficient to reflect the differences in living cost and purchasing power in different countries, which is basically the gross salary that should be paid to the recruited researchers in monthly installments. We have also the mobility allowance, which contributes to costs related to the mobility of the recruited researchers, such as travel and accommodation. And if applicable, of course, we have the family allowance in case the researcher has or acquires family obligations during the fellowship, the long-term leave allowance in case of long-term leave longer than 30 consecutive days, including like maternity, parental, paternity, sick leave, etc., or a special needs allowance for fellows with long-term physical, mental, intellectual, or sensory impairment. For seconded staff, in the case of staff exchanges, we have the seconded staff unit contribution, of course, and here we have a top-up allowance intended to cover travel, accommodation, and in general subsistence costs of the staff during their secondment, which is on top of the salary paid by the organization, and also, if applicable, special needs allowance, as we mentioned before. For co-fund, co-fund funding helps host organizations to cover for each supported researcher with a fixed amount, which is called the co-fund allowance, which is equivalent to the minimum salary that the researcher should receive. And also, if applicable, we have the possibility to receive a long-term leave allowance and a special allowance. The 2024 calls novelty is that the main novelty is that the rates of these different allowances not all of them, but I will tell which ones, have been increased. So the living and mobility allowance in doctoral networks and postdoctoral fellowship, the top-up allowance in staff exchanges, as well as the co-fund allowance, have been increased in line with the inflation between 2021 and 2023. And the previously mentioned country-specific correction coefficients that are applied to the living allowances have also been adjusted together with the methodology for their calculation in order to better reflect the changing costs of living in short periods of time. So let's move to the next one now that you have a general overview of the structure. Of course, as mentioned before, you will learn more about the specificities of each action later in the session, but let's come to the second, also very important step. Make sure you can apply. As you can see, as it was mentioned before, MSCA is open to both organization and individual researchers. Regarding organization, the MSCA are open to any legal entity worldwide, whether it's eligible for funding or not. It can be from the academic or non-academic sector, which was also highlighted before. And they also offer the possibility to participate as beneficiaries or associated partners. You may be wondering, what is the difference between both? Well, beneficiaries are the signatories of the grant agreement, being responsible, of course, for the implementation of project in accordance with the rules of the grant agreement they sign, and therefore they receive the funding directly from the project budget. Depending on the MSCA action, they either recruit, host, supervise researchers, second or host research and innovation staff, etc. Associated partners, they contribute to the implementation of MSCA project without being signatories of the grant agreement and without the right to charge costs or claim contributions, and they do not recruit researchers. Regarding individual researchers, the MSCA are open to individual researchers of any nationality. However, of course, depending on the MSCA action, researchers may need to comply with some specific condition to be able to apply. For example, it can be the case, like in postdoctoral fellowship, that the researchers need to be in a possession of a doctorate degree, or cases when researchers need to comply with the mobility rule, etc. I'm not going to tell you much more because this is something that you will learn about in the next session. So, as mentioned here, the novelty is that as of 1st of January 2024, as you all know, the UK became an associated country to Horizon Europe, including MSCA. What does it mean? This means that organizations based in the UK will be able to participate as beneficiaries in the same terms as those based in the European Union and other countries that are associated to Horizon Europe. For researchers from the UK will continue to be able to participate in the program, which is open to researchers from all over the world. As we have just seen, both individuals and organizations can apply to MSCA funding under different conditions and modalities. So, organizations can submit a proposal to an open call for doctoral networks, staff exchanges, co-fund, etc., in line, of course, with the applicable call conditions set up in the MSCA work program that we already mentioned at the beginning. They will need to do the following. They will need to either find partners to work with, for example, as part of a consortium implementing the action in the case of multi-beneficiary actions, or find researchers that are interested in developing an application with these organizations by hosting offers on EURAXESS or other major job portals. Individual researchers, on the other hand, can develop and submit proposals to an open postdoctoral call jointly with their chosen host organization, or directly apply to postdoctoral vacancies funded by MSCA project published also on EURAXESS. And now you may be asking, what is EURAXESS? Of course, the EURAXESS portal. They provide support services to professional researchers, including hosting offers, PhDs, and postdoctoral job posting funded by MSCA. Future PhD candidates can also apply to PhD vacancies funded by MSCA projects that are published in EURAXESS, and we will learn much more about this a little bit later. But other resources that maybe helpful to help you with finding new partners to work with and also to advertise your organizations. As you can see, we have the MSCA matchmaking platform for both researchers and organizations to find relevant partners and host institutions. We have also the partner search tool, which can also be found on the Funding and Tenders Opportunities portal that we mentioned before at the beginning when talking about the key resources. And we have also the Enterprise Europe Network to find partners outside academia or get advice on research business collaboration. Next slide, please. Yeah, well, here we have, I'm sharing with you the link to the EURAXESS job portal, but you will learn more about the different services they offer a little bit later, so I'm not gonna tell you many more details about that. Let's go to the next step, which is the fourth step. Once you found your partners, you will need, of course, to focus on drafting a successful application. To do so, you will need to get familiar with the, of course, award criteria and the specific requirements of the call, and therefore stick to them. For this, again, you should check in detail the MSCA award program to get familiar with the award criteria and the budget structure that we already introduced you a little bit. And yeah, just to highlight that it was also mentioned that the proposals are evaluated by experts based on the award criteria, excellence, impact, and quality and efficiency of the implementation. As the program is bottom-up, there are different evaluation panels. Yeah. The Horizon Europe program guide also provides more guidance on specific aspects that are evaluated under the award criteria, such as gender dimension and inclusiveness, dissemination and exploitation of research, or open science practices. You have here also more details on where you can find this. And I also decided to share with you some briefing videos of evaluators so that you can also have a look, and it can be very helpful. Depending on the MSCA action, there are some important core aspects that should be addressed in your proposal, such as quality of the selection and recruitment procedures in line with the European Charter of Researchers that was mentioned before, quality of supervision and career guidance in line with the guidelines for MSCA supervision, as also my colleague Claire mentioned, sustainable practices in line with the MSCA Green Charter, etc. Should you participate in the MSCA, you will of course play an important role in achieving these priorities. I'm sharing with you here also the key links to all these guidance and documents relating to all these priorities. I don't think I will enter into the details because they were mentioned, so maybe we can go quickly by one, just for you to have the links, and of course this will be shared with you and you will be able to have a closer look. Yeah, it's very important to take this also into account when drafting your proposal. This leads us to the fifth step. Check your application with your peers. I think this is also very important. Before submitting your application, it can be really helpful to have it reviewed by your peers. Thanks to this, you can receive invaluable feedback and even identify some areas that may need some improvement. You could also consider seeking advice from former applicants who have successfully navigated the process, the whole process. And in this sense, you can, of course, contact your MSCA National Contact Point, as they offer a lot of guidance and can also provide detailed insights to strengthen your application, the EURAXESS worldwide offices as well. And also very important, don't forget to make the most of the resources that are available with your own organization. Many institutions may have dedicated teams or individuals who can assist you in verifying and submitting your application and ensuring that it meets all necessary criteria. Taking all these steps will help you to enhance the quality of your application and, of course, increase your success chances, of course. And now the final submission process. Let's go to the final step. And well, here, just to remind you that applications are submitted to the Funding and Tenders Opportunity portal. You can really learn more about this on the call page. and the online manual that is available there. It's also important to become familiar with the electronic submission service. Here you also have the link. And another recommendation to avoid any last-minute issues, please submit your proposal as early as possible before, of course, the deadline expires. You can, of course, update, download, or withdraw your proposal until the deadline. And finally, here I also share some useful links with you. I know it's a lot, but it's good that you have all the information. Information is key for success, of course. And in conclusion, let's get back to the question we started with. How do I turn these opportunities into reality? As mentioned, by understanding the different schemes and following the different steps that we discussed, you can confidently move forward, seizing these opportunities and making a significant impact on your research career. For this, please join us in the next session to really learn about the different specificities of the different action and also many more inspiring stories. And also a very inspiring Marie Curie quote that I really wanted to end with. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Diana. That was a fantastic presentation, and we are going to circulate slides, so all of those useful links you are going to have. So just to say that we will handle all the Q&A right at the end, so if you've got any questions, just keep a note of them in your minds. And then I'd like to welcome our second speaker from this session, Gabrielle Newson. Gabrielle is the engagement lead for global mobility at UKRI. She's worked with UKRI for 7 years, having previously held roles in the Future Leaders Fellowship teams where we worked together in a pandemic. And she's also worked on transforming the foundation industry's challenge with Innovate UK. Gabrielle?
Thank you very much, Georgina, and all the organisers for inviting me along today. Diana, without realising, I think has created the perfect segue into my session, because she said, with that Marie Curie quote, nothing in life is to be feared, and that includes the UK immigration system. So I'm going to take you through that system and how it relates to Marie Curie Actions. And Christopher also earlier mentioned, I think that it was over 237,000 collaborations and over 163 countries where MSCA has created these collaborations. Now, of course, not all of those collaborations will involve the physical movement of people, but many of them will. So what I would like to do today is give you the confidence, whether you're applying yourself or whether you're supporting others to apply, to understand how our immigration system in this country matches with MSCA. So a little bit before we get into the detail on the positive impact that international mobility has. And there's a huge amount of evidence out there. There didn't used to be. It's something that has really come a long way in the last couple of years, which is fantastic to see. Before that, I think those of us that worked in this system, we all assumed that these benefits were there, but we didn't have the quantifiable evidence to back them up. But we are starting to really see that come through now, thanks to colleagues at UKRI, UUKi, the Royal Society, British Council, and forgetting people that are in the room and trying to make eye contact with those that are. But a huge group effort, and DSIT, of course, sat right in front of me to bring that evidence to fruition. So we know that international mobility has a really positive impact at different levels in the system. We know it has a positive impact for researchers. It's consistently reported those that move internationally, whether that's long-term or whether that's for a much shorter-term collaboration, have better networks, have improved research skills, and also tend to do more interdisciplinary work and have that connection with other fields. We see that positive influence continue at an institution level. There are reputational and performance benefits, there are financial benefits, better diversification of funding schemes, and also from an organisational perspective, it makes you more attractive. We see that international talent goes where international talent has often gone before, and it really helps you attract that global talent as well. And then, of course, at a country level, these positive impacts extend. So we see brain circulation across the whole system, which is really what we're aspiring to. We see increased availability of workers that have fantastic talents. And, of course, there's, as alluded to earlier, some nice benefits from our perspective to the UK's soft power as well. And Claire, in her talk this morning, mentioned that the UK was the most attractive destination in Europe. I'm going to have to ask for an evidence source for that so I can quote it forevermore. But I wanted to spend some time thinking about what makes the UK attractive. And again, this evidence has really started to come through in the last couple of years, which is fantastic to see. Now, of course, none of these, other than the UK lifestyle, are specific to the UK. We see these benefits in a huge number of countries. And trying to follow Christopher's example, not getting overexcited by league tables, because of course we all know it's much more than that, but we do see these values about the UK system kind of continually be ranked very, very highly, and we are very rightly proud of those. So the extent of career opportunities, not only in the academic centre, but in a wide range of research organisations and small to large scale businesses as well. A really strong and well-funded research infrastructure, and fantastic peers, those opportunities to build networks and collaborate in a huge number of different ways, and EURAXESS that we'll hear about shortly is one of those. And of course the British lifestyle, which should say UK lifestyle, please don't take that as any slight to my Northern Irish colleagues. They are absolutely included in this. Quite what that means, I don't know. This is the one evidence point that no one's been able to add a lot of detail underneath, so whether that means our museums, our cultural centre, whether that means literally the chippy on a Friday, I don't know. Please don't ask me a question about that, because I don't know what really that UK lifestyle is alluding to. But it would be good to get some kind of anecdotes and experiences of maybe those of you that have come to the UK, what you've particularly enjoyed later on. So then moving into, oh, I think I might have just turned it off, Anne, sorry. Moving into the UK's Global Talent Visa. So I'm going to spend most of the time talking about this visa today as it most directly relates to MSCA, but there are other visa types that might be appropriate in other cases. So I'm more than happy to talk about those in the sessions. I've worn orange, so I should be nice and easy to find, also in the sessions this afternoon as well. So yes, since this is the implementation of the session today, let's get really stuck into the Global Talent Visa. The Global Talent Visa is the visa that is designed to support research in the UK. So it is a fast-tracked application process. You can apply to it for up to 5 years, and you can apply beyond the length of the award. I'm going to try to do some myth busting as I go along today, and that is the first myth, that if you have an award for a particular length of time, you can only apply for a visa for that length of time. That is not true. You can apply for the Global Talent Visa for up to 5 years if the original grant or action that you have is less than that, and you can also add extensions on top of that. You can come and go from the UK at will, so whether that's for personal or professional reasons, there are no restrictions on that travel. Fantastic, thank you, Anne. And you can apply for eligibility for settled status after 3 years. Family members, so your dependents, can also travel with you as a Global Talent Visa holder. There's no requirement to complete an English language test. There's no salary threshold, and the visa fee and part of that visa fee, called the Immigration Health Surcharge, that I'm sure many of you will be familiar with, that can be claimed back. So that is covered in MSCA. So this diagram, I'm going to show you a lot as we go through, and we're going to keep coming back to it. And I hope by the end of today, if you want to go back and reference the Global Talent Visa for any reason, this is the diagram that will come to mind, and we'll make sure that this is available to you. This sets out the Global Talent Visa offering. UKRI, the organisation I'm from, endorses one of the 4 routes, but we couldn't do it without our colleagues at the Royal Society, the British Academy and the Royal Academy of Engineering. Those 3 national academies also endorse on 3 other routes of the visa. The top 3 are fast-tracked routes, and they're the ones that we'll focus on today. There is also a non-fast-track route, a peer review route, for if the fast-track criteria don't fit your needs, but that is unlikely to be the case when we are talking about MSCA. So we're going to start by going through the actions and mapping them to one of those Global Talent Visa routes. So in the context of Marie Curie Actions, I'm first going to talk about doctoral networks and the co-fund. So the co-fund, and this includes fellowships under the co-fund, that is the second myth of the day, are both supported by Route 3 of the Global Talent Visa, and that is this blue route here. So this route, we call it the endorsed funders route. You might call it called even Route 3. And that is the route that supports, like I said, the co-fund, including fellowships under the co-fund, and also doctoral networks. All the endorsements are done by UKRI, and it's a two-stage process. So you apply to us at UKRI for an endorsement, and then you apply for the visa itself from Home Office. So hopefully that outlines the difference between endorsement and the visa. Sometimes those two things can get conflated. You need both of them to obtain that visa, but they are separate things, and the endorsement is from UKRI in this case. The visa is from colleagues at Home Office. So a bit more about the endorsed funder route. I wanted to give you a flavour of the route, but the real takeaway is that this fits with those MSCA actions that I mentioned. So this is for researchers and research teams working on grants from UKRI recognised endorsed funders. So again, MSCA, co-fund, doctoral networks fit in that. Applicants are required to be employed or hosted at an approved UK host organisation. And this covers a very, very broad range of research organisations. I don't want to tempt fate by saying this, but I'd be surprised if you could find a research organisation that isn't on that list. I've guaranteed that someone will now tell me that one isn't, but it is a very comprehensive list, and we are always expanding it. So if there is one missing that you would like to be hosted, employed in, and it's not on there, that is not for any reason other than we haven't had anyone hosted there before. So please do come and talk to me, and we can see what we can do about adding it to the list. The list of endorsed funders is also large and continually growing. It's currently over 110, and a bit of a plea given who we've got in the room. If you are aware of other funders, whether that's domestic to the UK, whether that's European, or whether that's international, that aren't on that list, that at some point in your career you hope to or expect to get funding from, please again let us know. That list is continually growing, but it is very difficult for us to make it as comprehensive as we would like to make it and make sure that we are supporting the widest possible range of research careers without your input as to where you expect and hope to get funding from. All you have to do is tell us the name of the organisation and we will do the rest. So it's 2, maybe 3 minutes. It's not a big ask. So if you're on the train on the way home, thinking, reflecting back on the day and you think of a funder, then please do ping it over to us and we can continue to grow that list. A little bit more about endorsed funder route, and then I will move on to fellowships. So endorsed funder route, again, I say this in the context of these eligibility, with the exception of maybe a very, very few cases, we expect all MSCA actions in the categories I mentioned to be covered. But this is so you can understand the eligibility criteria behind that. So a grant must be over £30,000 and at least 2 years in duration. That doesn't mean that someone or that you have to work on it for 2 years. You have to work on it up to 50% of your time for 1 year. So it's not that you have to be on it for those 2 years. There is a more generous criteria there. That was previously 2 years, and that is another misconception that has in the last couple of years reduced from 2 years to 1 year. So if you've got any kind of legacy documents in your department or any kind of input knowledge, please take away that has now changed. The individual must independently direct or direct under the supervision of a PI, unique research and innovation project, or they must be making critical contributions to research. So that includes research team members as well. And then the final thing to say on Route 3 is the paperwork that is needed. Paperwork on immigration isn't really particularly exciting, is it? But I wanted to share it with you because it is probably the number one question we get asked. What actual documentation do I need? And for Route 3, for this route, you need an award letter. So you need to demonstrate that you are part of a co-fund or demonstrate that you're part of a doctoral network that can either have your name on it, or it can have kind of the role that you will take on. Either is fine from our perspective to endorse you. and you also need a statement of guarantee. That comes from the host organisation or the organisation that's employing you, and they essentially, all they're doing is confirming that you meet those eligibility criteria. And we take that and we take the award letter, and assuming that both meet the criteria, which again, we expect them to for MSCA, we will offer you that endorsement. So that was co-fund, including fellowships and doctoral networks. The other one where we see a lot of global talent visas used is postdoctoral fellowships. Now, this isn't run by UKRI, this is run by our fantastic colleagues at the National Academies, and they've provided me some material to share so that you get the full picture. So back to this diagram, I told you we'd be referencing it continually throughout. Back to this diagram, we are now talking about route 2, the green section. So this is called the fellowship route. And this is run, like I said, by the Royal Society, British Academy, and the Royal Academy of Engineering. Something to note here is that if you're looking to obtain endorsement under this route, you need to apply for the most relevant endorsing body for your subject matter area. The Royal Society on their website hold a fantastic list of all the fellowships that are eligible, and it's really useful to have that in one place. However, one of the errors that inadvertently generates is that everybody goes to the Royal Society for their endorsement. If you work in engineering, or if you're hoping to do work in the arts, the humanities, then please go to the Royal Academy of Engineering or the British Academy, respectfully. If you're not sure, you can ask them up front. They're very happy to work through which is the best endorsing body. And also, we all get on very well, so don't worry. We do reroute applications if they do end up in the wrong place. We will make sure, working with Home Office colleagues, that it ends up in the right place. It won't just get lost in the system. So my ask would be to try and make the decision as accurate as you can up front, but not to worry too much if you're not sure. So some more details about the fast track fellowship route. Again, all postdoctoral fellowships on MSCA fall under this category, but overall this is for fellowships awarded through a competitive process conducted to high quality standards of peer review and aimed at leaders or potential leaders in their relevant fields. And this is for personal fellowships. So this is for fellowships that this time do have to have your name attached to them. On the half of the screen there, you can see the awards that are eligible under the Exceptional Promise category. And the reason, you might be looking and thinking this list is outdated, the reason we've got some more historical ones on there are because you can be eligible for endorsement for a global talent visa up to 5 years after or from the end date of your fellowship. And that is, I think, the third myth that I want to try and bust today. Many people think that once their fellowship is over, they've missed that window for endorsement. It's up to 5 years after the end of your fellowship. And that also has recently been extended. So that is the new criteria. A tiny bit more on the fast track fellowship route before we draw to a close. So eligibility is open regardless of whether the fellowship is held inside or outside of the UK, and that is true of the European and global fellowships on MSCA. So if you are spending kind of part of the time in the UK, then that is absolutely fine. You don't have to be holding and delivering your entire fellowship here. There are no restrictions, this is true of the endorsed funder route as well, there are no restrictions on part-time working, time left on the fellowship, or I hope that you wouldn't, but in the case that you do decide to terminate the fellowship early, that endorsement is maintained. And my colleagues at the Royal Society tell me that over 5,000 MSCA fellowships have been endorsed since the start of the Global Talent Visa in 2020. Coming back to that question earlier about there are a lot of different figures, we've taken it from the point of the Global Talent Visa starting in 2020. Previously, it was Tier 1, so there will be kind of many more before that under a different immigration system. But since the Global Talent Visa started, that figure is in excess of 500, which I think is fantastic. And hopefully from today, we will see more of those fellowship applications come through. So a tiny bit to end then just on applying for the visa. Hopefully you now understand how the different Marie Curie actions align with the different parts of the Global Talent Visa system. And often people go, well, that's great, but what do I actually sit down and Google? Like, how do I get the visa? Where do I go now? So everything is through the gov.uk webpage, and there is a huge amount of information on there. It goes into a lot more detail. Like I said right at the top, your stage 1 is that global talent visa endorsement, and stage 2 is the visa application itself. Endorsement from ourselves and also from the national academies usually takes around 2 weeks, so it's a relatively quick process, and if all of the documentation is correct and it is something we are familiar with, such as MSCA, then normally that is a lot quicker. So, one other thing I get asked a lot, when do I actually submit the visa application? You can submit it at the same time as you apply for endorsement, or you can wait until your endorsements come through and then put your visa application in. It is entirely at your discretion or your organisation's discretion if they are supporting you, whether you do those two things in tandem or whether you do them one after another. And you'll normally get that stage 2 decision, that visa decision, within 3 weeks if you're outside of the UK, and within 8 weeks if you are inside the UK. The visa length is flexible, so I mentioned it's not tied to the length of the action. If you have an action that is less than 5 years, but you would like to apply for a global talent visa up to 5 years, then you can. It doesn't have to be linked. And again, that is at your discretion how long you would like to apply for. Anything from 1 to 5 years is permitted under the system, as are subsequent extensions. And I can go into some more detail with that if anyone is particularly interested. Why is it important to use the Global Talent Visa? I have focused on the Global Talent Visa today. Like I said at the start, there are other visas in the UK immigration system, and in some cases, some of those might be more applicable. But by and large, and as much as you can make generalisations when you're talking about immigration, Global Talent Visa is what you want to be looking at to apply or to support others to apply for MSCA. Where we've seen people not do that, we've seen lengthier application processes, unnecessary additional steps, delays to starting projects, and also just unnecessary cost to the projects. And it's not in anyone's interest. We want you to be able to crack on with the amazing research that you're all doing as quickly as and efficiently as possible. So if you're unsure, I would really encourage you to speak to your coordinator or supervisor, your university HR department. You also have UK Visas and Immigration at the Home Office. And of course, UKRI, we're an endorsing body, and we're very happy to answer endorsement-specific questions, as are the national academies about endorsements relevant to them. So I will end back on this diagram, and this is the one I want you to take away, is for postdoctoral fellowships, look at Route 2, and for doctoral networks and co-fund, including the fellowships, look at Route 3. So hopefully that helps take an element of the fear out of the immigration system. Very happy to answer any questions in the panel. What I can't do is answer individual questions about your particular visa or anything like that. UKRI are not licensed to give that advice, but I can talk in general terms, and hopefully we can apply that to your particular case. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Gabrielle. That talk was fantastic, and I'm sure many of you learned a lot and are going to take that intel forward into your departments. So I'd like to welcome Oonagh Collins to the stage now, or to the stand. Oonagh is the EURAXESS Programme Manager at the British Council, and she's going to talk about the role of EURAXESS in helping support deliver the MSCA schemes. So over to you. Do you want to run your slides?
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so yes, as Georgina said, I'm Oonagh Collins. I work for the British Council on EURAXESS UK. So EURAXESS UK is part of the wider EURAXESS network that was established by the European Commission to help support research mobility between countries and give career development advice. The British Council represents EURAXESS for the UK. We're funded by the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology. All EURAXESS services are free to access, and that's for researchers and institutions. Okay, so Just an overview. So EURAXESS is a network of national organisations. They're often called bridgehead organisations or BHOs, and also service centres for researchers and research organisation advice. The services centres tend to be universities. So there's 43 individual country hubs. So they're individual portals offering country-specific advice to researchers that are interested in moving to that country. There's also 9 worldwide hubs, so from Africa to China, etc. There's also the central pan-European portal with career development, advice, jobs, funding, and obviously the hosting database that relates to MSCA. There's over 640 service centres currently, and they offer tailored advice, as I mentioned, for people that are interested in attending their particular institution. It was launched 20 years ago and previously known as the ERI more. So the worldwide hubs, as I mentioned, it is very international, not just Europe, despite the name. And the goal is to remove barriers to researchers' mobility, create conditions for open, transparent movement. Obviously, that's been a little bit trickier for EURAXESS UK in recent years, but more reason for it to be there to give advice. Also, the aim is promoting corporate cooperation and fostering attractive research careers. So as you can see, the 43 country portals and the 9 worldwide hubs that I mentioned. So the main draw for researchers would be searching for jobs, funding and hosting, finding the individual country advice and career development advice. There's over 100,000 researchers that are using the platform. There's over 64,000 job offers published annually, and over 13,000 registered organisations. The main draw for institutions and businesses is obviously the reverse, so offering jobs, funding and hosting. And there's also resources for institutions and the resources they can direct research to, and a policy library that they can access.
I think you're picking on this
Sorry, which one? 21. Sorry. So yeah, this is just a snapshot of some figures. So as you can see, there was in the region of 9,700 jobs, and just it gives an overview of the areas that they are in. And same for the UK. And then this is just a snapshot of the EURAXESS centres in the UK and Northern Europe. So obviously, if you're looking for an individual centre, you can search for that on the system. And then this is the career development advice section that's available for researchers with advice on careers in academia, outside academia, and advice on creating a CV, the academic CV. Yeah, so just a snapshot of what it looks like when you're looking for jobs, funding and hosting. So as you can see, you can search by keyword, career stage, country, EU programme, etc. And yeah, so just another snapshot of what it looks like when you're looking for funding. So for Marie Curie, so for Marie Curie and Horizon Europe, so they require for both doctoral network and co-fund projects there is a requirement to publish the adverts on the EURAXESS portal. And if there's any audit, the auditors will be looking to see whether the job adverts have been published there. So it's advisable to take a screenshot of the advert at the time for that reason. For postdoctoral fellowships, the researchers are recommended to look on EURAXESS for hosting offers from organisations. And the researcher will then develop the application jointly with their chosen host organisation. So this, if your organisation has got an opportunity to put on EURAXESS, you'll need to, as an individual, register for an account. So that can be through either the UK portal on the top or the main EURAXESS portal on the bottom there. And there's just the easiest way of finding the way to register is just to click on the login on the top right there. And then just go through the usual process of creating an account. And if it recognises, if the organisation is registered, it should recognise your email address. If it's not registered, then there's advice on the organisation profile section on setting up a new organisation on the system. And so so adding opportunity, just where the red pen is, you can see it's pretty straightforward. You just click on the operations and then add funding, hosting, job offer, etc. And it doesn't need to be EU related or MSCA related. Any jobs, any funding for researchers that would be relevant can be posted there. So this is just what it looks like when you're putting a hosting offer. So you can just see putting title, basic information on the institution, the description of the opportunity. And then there's just a short waiting period where it's reviewed and then it'll be posted onto the EURAXESS portal. There's detailed information on the help section. It's on the bottom right of both of the UK portal and the main EURAXESS portal. So there's detailed information to help you with posting, hosting jobs, etc. And there's FAQs, and that's the support team if you have any technical difficulties. So I just wanted to briefly just mention a couple of EURAXESS opportunities. So there's the Rebecca mentoring program that's for researchers beyond academia. So obviously the majority of people doing PhDs will later move out of academia, so this is just to help them find paths. So it's a mentoring program that usually runs in October, November, and it's quite, if you're the mentors can be like research managers, people in industry, etc. So if you're interested, you can look into that. There's also Science for Refugees, there's a current opportunity on that for hosting refugee interns, if that's something that you're able to do. That's something you can find on the website. And just wanted to mention some of the webinars that we've been having recently. So there was a Researchers in Mental Health webinar, Women in Science, and a Researchers Beyond Academia webinar. And this is just some pictures from the recent Network Biennial Conference that was in Poland this month. Just convening of all the different countries and a lot of the service centres. It was good to get a UK contingent there. So members' benefits, so increased visibility, participation in network events, use of info and training material, using the EURAXESS logo, the guidance and support from European Commission and the national organisations, eligibility for some EURAXESS funds. There was one earlier in the year for 24,000 for increasing the activities of the centre, so UK centres would be eligible for that, and also lots of networking opportunities. So future plans for EURAXESS. So we're going to have a webinar tomorrow. So that's on Horizon Europe and MSCA recipients with positive experiences of coming to the UK. So Quentin Lewis here, the head of the UK chapter for Marie Curie alumni will be part of that, as well as some current PhD and research fellows and recent alumni. So they're going to be speaking about their experiences of coming to the UK, and also the UKRI guarantee, just to sort of say that it's, you know, it's a safe way to come here. The money will come through. It's it's something that you can apply for with confidence. So this is so tomorrow, if anyone's interested, tomorrow online from 10 to 11:30. And also just to say, well, some further upcoming webinars and some in-person events this year for researchers that are in the UK. That's my email if you would like to contact me. And if anyone is interested in becoming a service centre, the requirements aren't too much. You just have to sort of mainly record the inquiries that you're getting, and I can obviously speak to you further about it, but it's not actually that demanding. And so this is just the various social medias. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Oonagh. That was a brilliant sort of practical view on, you know, the whole job application process. And apologies for the slide gremlins. I think we've got an overly sensitive pointer and things there. But yeah, some really, really great sessions. I'd like to open the floor for questions now, and we now have a roving mic. So do still please project as you were before. But can I invite any questions? John? Over here, thank you.
Actually a big projector, John.
Go for it.
My question is for Oonagh. Hello. My name's Rachel. I work for a social enterprise called Science Made Simple. We are all about public engagement with the STEM subjects. So we do lots of training with researchers. So we love to provide placements for researchers and groups. You mentioned in your presentation that most of your hosting partners are universities, which implies to me they don't have to be. So could you tell us a little bit about what about people who aren't in these? Thanks.
Hello? Yeah, okay. Definitely on. You don't have to be a university, definitely. So if the type of organisation that you've described sounds like it would be eligible, because it's mainly about giving advice. So it sounds like you're very well placed to do that. So yes, if you want to come and speak to me in the break, please do. And yeah, it's definitely welcome to be part of the network.
Great. So while you're thinking, I'll ask a question, and it's for Diana. Would you say, are there any common sort of particular pitfalls that people make when they make their MSCA applications? Are there any sort of general pointers that you could give us? The mistakes not to make.
Can you hear me? Is it okay? Yeah. Now I hear myself. Well, I think the most important is, as I mentioned, to do everything on time. Yeah. Timing, I think timing is key for everything, because of course, as mentioned at the beginning, knowing very well the streams and really making sure and discover which one is the best one, and then starting the journey. And of course, timing is the best advisor, I would say. And I think it's key to start as early as possible and not to leave these things for the end of the process, because sometimes we can be surprised by last minute, I don't know, changes or...
Yes. And what would you advise if somebody is struggling a little bit, they're up against it timing-wise, would you say it's worth putting it in, or...?
It's always worth to putting it in, of course. Yeah. And also, as mentioned before, there are plenty of resources available for researchers and who really need advice, no matter in which part of the process. So of course they should take the advantage of all these resources, and also especially of those researchers who already and colleagues who already went through the process and have the experience of a really successful application.
Yeah. No, I think, and just to emphasise that peer-to-peer support and learning is a really important part of submission. So I'm scanning the room. I don't think we've got any more questions. So, from John.
Thank you for wonderful presentations. My question is for Gabrielle. Thank you for a detailed presentation about the global talent. I am one of the MCAs who has a global talent currently. And the question is how the future applicants are learning about this. Because when I was coming to UK, I have learned about that from my friend. Randomly, so it would be great that they will learn in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a really, really good question, and it's interesting that you've heard about it from your friend, because we know from some Home Office data that almost 2/3 of people on a global talent visa have heard about it from a friend or a family member, which I think is really surprising. I was quite shocked when I first saw that data. So I guess off the back of that, my plea would be to talk about it, to whether you hold it or whether you're now aware of it after today, to raise it in conversations where you think it might be relevant, and encourage people to look into it. Obviously, alongside that, although that has a huge amount of power, we also want a systematic approach to making sure that the word is getting out. So we have a number of different ways of doing this from UKRI perspective, and also the national academies as well. We work very closely with something called the Great Talent Campaign, which is a fantastic DSIT-led campaign promoting the UK overseas. And we now have a dedicated arm of that, which is a talent campaign, which includes information on visas. The stats, as you were asking that, honestly, I'm not exaggerating this, the stats just popped up into my inbox from the latest round of evaluation. So I don't know what they say yet, but we've put a huge amount of effort into the last year to reaching researchers outside of the UK. So hopefully, when I get a chance to look at them, those stats will show that reflected. We also encourage those organisations in the room, those UK research universities, research offices, to share the word, to suggest the global talent visa. I understand, as per UKRI, that you can't give immigration advice. Some of you can, but the majority can't. But we still encourage you to point towards the global talent visa, get people to look at it and decide if it's relevant for them. And also where it's something like MSCA, where you have that direct link, then make sure that it is known about. So on a number of different levels, I think is the short answer. Would really encourage everyone to keep talking about it, direct to family and friends, at an organisational level, and also we are involved in international campaigns as well. But it's something that we are continually striving to do. And I will end with a plug. I don't know if Shirley is in the room, or yes, she is. We are always looking for amazing case studies of those that have used MSCA, and from a personal perspective, I would love if that included the global talent visa. So if anybody is interested in that, then it would be fantastic to get your stories. And I think those personal stories and demonstrating the real kind of breadth of research that can be done on MSCA helps again reach more people, and keep kind of that snowball effect.
Yeah. Yeah, help us to make another one of those videos. Right. I'm going to close the session. So before I get you to sort of join me in thanking the speakers, lunch is going to be served out here. Please make sure that you are in either the postdoctoral session or the doctoral network session on time. We'll be starting those at 2:30. So that leaves us with about 50 minutes for lunch. So enjoy, have a good break. And once again, thank you very much to our session 2 speakers.